Hello and welcome to everyone. Today my guest is legendary MMA coach Ricardo Liborio. Ricardo, can you please say a few sentences about yourself to introduce our fans and so on? I mean, I know everything about you, but my fans don't, so go for it.
Oh, Vlad, man, this is a pleasure to be here. Guys, my name is Ricardo Liborio, and I was an MMA coach from Carson Gray's team and Brazilian top team and American top team. I was a founder of those two. But one of the biggest accomplishments that I had was actually being Carson Gracie black belt. So right now I'm teaching. I'm a professor inside the University of Central Florida, teaching a class of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which is a project new that I'm involved right now. So I hope everybody stay at home and safe and far away from this coronavirus craziness.
Thank you so much. You mentioned BJJ. Can you please describe the greatest achievements of your own BJJ career?
Um, like I say, my biggest achievement, I think it was being a black belt under Carlson Gracie. Because if it wasn't for that, I would not have the chances to learn what I learned. I was very fortunate to be born in the right place at the right time of the boom of jujitsu, and furthermore the boom of MMA, because it's classically in Rio. There was a big rivalry in 1991 in between jiu-jitsu and luta libre. And I don't know if I'm just jumping ahead right now. You can stop me and ask the questions
Go
where
for
you
no,
want.
no,
But
no. You're talking. Go for it. Go for it. I
yeah,
listen.
but 1991, there was this big rivalry between jiu-jitsu and luta libre. And Carlson Gracie was the head coach of the jiu-jitsu guys. So it was the first time that actually jiu-jitsu got together and united against the luta libre guys, which is the movement of it was like jiu-jitsu with a no-gi. And there was the vale tudo, and Carlson trained all the other athletes from different academies. So this is really was the biggest union that jiu-jitsu had it at the time, but was in the modern era the birth of vale tudo, because from 1991 there was a big boom in Brazil of everybody wanted to fight vale tudo, because that vale tudo in particular, the 1991 against the luta libre, was aired on the biggest prime channel, the biggest channel in the whole entire nation. So it went to millions and millions of people, of course, causing a lot of polemic, because a lot of people, how you guys could see this on TV? There's a fighting and people headbutting each other. There was no gloves or nothing, and I was part of that process. When they decided to do this event, I was part of the process of Carlson Gracie training people. So I saw Carlson training Murilo Bustamante and Fabio Gurgel and Walid Ismail and Marcelo Bering. There was a lot of other guys there that were part of a training camp, and I was one of them. But I had a chance to see it, with my own eyes, Carlson Gracie teaching. And that inspired me a lot. And from that, 1991, after that, the UFC was created. And I think in a certain way that 1991 kind of light up the ideas that there is a market for that. People wants to be part of the fighting game, and Horian created the UFC in 1993. And from there on, it was just absolutely this new industry and billions of dollars industry that you see here right now. Counting UFC that sold for $4.2 billion, but there's other events. There's all over the world. So I think I'm not going to say that was the birthplace, but in a modern era, I think this 1991 in Rio de Janeiro ignited the idea for the 1993 first UFCs. you know, because at the time in Brazil was a hot topic. Everybody wants to be jiu-jitsu. Everybody wants to fight vale tudo. Everybody wants to, defend the legacy of jiu-jitsu or Brazil. So that's really, it created this big boom. And I was in the middle of that in a certain way. Yep.
Amazing. Before your fight with Ikuhisa Minova, I was watching Royce Gracie a lot, and I haven't seen a pure grappling match, but a pure grappling match. I was thinking in MMA that until then that pure MMA grappling match is impossible. But after your fight with Ikuhisa Minova, I kind of changed my mind, While I was watching it, I was expecting people will start throwing punches and so on, but you were rolling down the canvas all the time. So can you please talk a bit on that match?
Yeah. Well, what happened was this. I had a job. I worked for a bank. I worked for the government, and have this job in a bank, and that was a very stable job. And at one point there, I was able to combine my job and getting sponsorship from the Bank of Brazil. That's the government bank that I work for, and I was able to combine my regular job to a sponsorship, and I started training. But the only clause on the contract is that I cannot fight vale tudo, because there was a very bad image, comparing with other sports that was there. And remember, this is in the beginning of everything. I was really in the beginning of the vale tudo, and it was the time that everybody was classifying vale tudo como like human cockfighting. I don't know if you remember. So the bank has this image, and I could not be part of that. And anyway, and then what I was rapping is I was training with the guys, and I was coaching the guys. I was really guys like Murillo, his first MMA fight, his first vale tudo fight. I was there, and I got this taste of being the coach behind the scenes. Besides that, I was learning from the best. I was seeing a masterpiece that Carlson was doing it, teaching and coaching the guys. So at this time, I really got, that was the time also that Carlson changed it, the whole entire team, from training with jiu-jitsu with the gi, with the no gi. So you see that because we started training for vale tudo, everybody dropped it. The gi, there was no money on the training with the gi. This is in 1991, guys. Again, there was no money on competing with the gi, and there was the spotlight that the vale tudo and the money that things that started showing up. It was presented to all entire team of Carlson Gracie. So people stopped in a certain way to training with the gi to start training with no gi, and there is at the time still a huge jiu-jitsu still to be presented. It was at the time it was a clash of styles. People want to try to prove that jiu-jitsu was an efficient martial arts for MMA compared with other ones, right? You're representing jiu-jitsu. You don't want to strike. It was pretty different as it is today. Today, remember, this is the time as a vale tudo, not the time of no holds bar. Is the time, and not the time of MMA. It's a different sport. And in the beginning and everything, everybody was just trying to prove, like Royce Gracie did. Royce didn't strike at all. Royce was doing pure jiu-jitsu to prove the efficiency of the sport from that. So it was even a direction from Carlson. If you can't strike, it's okay. Don't strike it. It showed that jiu-jitsu is more efficient, So there is a lot of guys who are actually training grappling, and for me, I was one of those guys that try to be. And this is something that I changed it, right? Because the MMA, the way the MMA is trained, the way the MMA evolved, changed everything, Vlad. Nowadays, the science is behind it. There was so much organization, and beyond anything else, at my time, there was no, everybody comes from a background. There's not a pure MMA background. Nowadays, you go to school and you learn MMA as a whole. You learn the striking part, the takedown part, the ground part. But at my time, it was jiu-jitsu that learned a little bit of striking to go fight MMA. And you have wrestlers that learn a little bit on how to defend the jiu-jitsu submissions and the striking. And from there, so far, so on. The Muay Thai guy has to learn take down defenses and learn how to not to get caught or back up again. So it was one background, yeah. One background. And from that, it's for us, we have to learn everything, from the jiu-jitsu part. We have the efficiency of jiu-jitsu and the submissions, which is from the beginning, nobody had it. In every corner of the world, you'll find a striking or a takedown, combat sport, but not on the ground, not on the submission level that jiu-jitsu had it. You have sambo, of course, and you have judo, but it doesn't pass as much on the ground like jiu-jitsu do, Jiu-jitsu is 10% takedowns and 90% ground. And as judo is 90% takedowns and 10% ground, There are submissions, of course. There's high-level things. But the amount of time they spend on the ground, jiu-jitsu is still, in my opinion, the best source of knowledge. So, yeah, for me, it was like when I fought, it was like, okay, we got to test the jiu-jitsu efficiency on your matches. But things changed completely, radically, and when it was and what it is right now. Right, Vlad?
Yeah, I agree. Definitely. MMA earlier and MMA today, two different sports completely. You mentioned that you were a part of creating Brazilian top team and American top team. Can you please tell these stories?
And at one point there, we got out of Brazil. We got out of Carlson Gracie, and there was the foundation of Brazilian top team. Brazilian top team was founded by four guys: me, Murilo Bustamante, Mario Esperi, and Bebel Duarte. Those guys who had leadership at the time, the older guys. And when we started training, everybody came to train with us. And so Brazilian top team was really the cradle from fighters like Minotauro, Rodrigo Nogueira, Rogério Nogueira, his brother, Victor Belfort at the time trainings with us, Paulo Filho, Ricardo Arona, Carlon Barreto, Alan Gois, Mario Sperry, Murilo Bustamante. All those guys are big names in Japan, especially in Japan. That was the time of Pride Show. Pride Show was a huge success, and nothing to be seen even in today, Vlad. Japan, I went to competitions like when Minotauro fought Bob Sapp, and there was 100,000 people in the crowd. It was incredible. I think it's still to the day the biggest crowd for any type of combat sports. And there was this glamour because it was in the beginning of everything. That was Pride Show. It was a masterpiece. There was a combination of many different aspects. First of all, because it was in Japan, and Japan is really cradle for so many martial arts. The people, the whole entire population in Japan has some sort of a martial arts involvement. Because in the school system, they have so many type of martial arts. So the fans in Japan were incredible. It was just absolutely incredible. And they see it differently from other countries. At the time, Brazil, Russia, and in the United States have the Vale Tudos, and are complete different crowds. Very different perception of how they see the event itself and how they cheer for the event. You go to the Vale Tudo Pride event at the time, you could hear baby crying. There was babies crying they take their babies to the Pride shows. It was incredible. And you have the average event there was 25,000 people. The average, the minimum event. Let's say average, I think, is even more. It's 35,000 people. 35,000 people is the best of UFCs here or in Canada, in the United States and Canada. So just for you to compare, there was so many people and there was so much in root in the culture of Japan that I really never thought that the Pride show or any other events it would stop. It would be ceasing activities, because it was amazing to see. The next day was always in every newspaper and every TV news and every magazine. It was something incredible to see it. So we took that best part, what Brazilian top team really grew up there, and there was this big rivalry with shoot boxing. What made the Vale Tudo grow also in Brazil and all over the world, guys like Arona fighting Vanderlei Silva and Paulo Filho fighting Ninja, and all this big Anderson Silva was at the time, Shogun Rua, all these big names in Brazil were really actually brought up at the time of Pride, and we were in the eye of the hurricane, you can say. So Brazilian top team did pretty well, extremely well, and especially in Japan. And at one point there, I wanted to learn English because there is one person at the time speaking English and being the manager for everybody else, which is Mario Sperry. But there were so many other guys. We had so many people that were brought up. Because remember, we're the best team in the world at the time. And everybody was flying in to Brazil to learn how to fight and want to be managed by us, including Japanese fighters. And we felt the necessity to have somebody else to manage the fighters. So I was on a mission to learn the business side and to learn how to manage and how to be more successful as a team itself. And at the time, with the brand that we had of Vlad, we sell a lot of products to Japan. So people that don't see this, look, there was 35,000 people in the event, and they have 2 intermissions of 30 minutes. There's 2 intermissions of 30 minutes. Everybody goes there, they get out, and they go to the lines. Hey, how are you?
I told your greeting.
No problem.
She greets you too, Ricardo. Go for it. Continue.
So, with the event, they have 35,000 people, and 30 minutes, they stop it. And everybody goes out, and they could see the lines of people, Vlad, going there to buy the T-shirts and all the products from Brazilian.
Može mi da otvoriš vrata? Čuješ? Okay, continue.
Okay?
All right, go for it.
That's fine, anytime. Come on, don't be hard on her. Come on.
No, I'm not because of the TV, because I can't hear TV and you at the same time. That's the reason.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No, I cannot hear the TV from here.
No problem. Go for it.
Okay, so this amount of people there in the event, and everybody was coming in and go to the lines to buy products. And that's what we're making. We, as the Brazilian top team owners, that's where we make the most of the money, because the products that we sell from Brazilian top team. And this thing started picking up. I was trying to, learn more English, and I got invited to move to Japan. I had a proposal to move to Japan. There is a big investor in Japan. Actually, the guy who invested in boxing there, he has 2 world champions, flyweight world champions, Japanese guys. And he wants to get into MMA. He needed a coach, and they invited me to be there working with him. And I said, okay, let me think of that. But the main goal is to learn English. I went to Corner Murillo in the United States, and I met the partner, and he invited me to go to America, to come over here to America. And that's the beginning of everything. So in a couple months in America, I tell him, this is this is the place to be. America, like it or not, is the capital of the world. If it works over here, it's going to spread out everywhere else. And I had an idea, which at the time was a good idea, to get all this top teams all over the world. And every country, if you go to Serbia, you do the Serbian top team. If you go to Ukraine, Ukrainian top team, Brazilian top team, American top team. So I sold my part of Brazilian top team to my partners, and I got the name of American top team, and we built up American top team. An American top team that was a baby whale. We knew that was going to be a big team. They had all this. I was learning from Carlson Gracie from 1991 at the time. Don't forget this. It's 20 years of learning how to coach people and how to deal with this industry and how to deal with people, which is the biggest commodity there, right? The personalities and the needs of a fighter, man. It's the most complicated thing, The techniques are easier. It's the human being that is actually you have to work on, right?
Yeah.
And we knew that's going to be big. And when we founded a Brazilian top team, when I moved to the United States, an American top team, and actually that's when Zuffa bought UFC. And there was this big transformation through the reality show. They were in a hole for a while, and somebody had the idea of the reality show, and the reality show, boom, skyrocketed UFC back on a prime time viewer. Everybody was looking at it, and it was really, really interesting to the regular person. And they capitalized on it, and they did what it did to grow UFC as it is today, and that's the moment at a turning point for MMA, I think.
Yeah, absolutely agree. I know this will be a very, very hard question for you. You've trained a lot of champions, a lot of great fighters, and so on. But can you pinpoint at least 10, 20 greatest guys you've ever trained, or it's a very hard question? What do you think?
It's very hard because there's so many little differences on it. But a couple guys that are really stand out that I really actually train for many different reasons. But I give an example. The guy who has the best mindset for fighting that I saw in my life was Rodrigo Minotauro Nogueira. Because Rodrigo was an average guy. Rodrigo in training is the kind of guy that he was always good, but he was not that guy who's beating everybody in a room. He was not that guy who was in a room and he was destroying everybody. Like, I give an example. Victor Belfort was that guy. Victor Belfort was that guy who was, oh man, this guy's a standout. But while Rodrigo in a match, he goes from here to here. Victor in a certain way, he doesn't have the same mindset. It is something normal. Why is that? Is that you used to beat everybody in a room. Everybody is hard. Nobody does anything with you, on you. And suddenly you go to the fight and somebody does something to you. It scares, right? But Rodrigo is the opposite. Rodrigo has a mindset that for him, it doesn't matter what happens to the training camp. In the training camp, lad, it's when people has their breakdowns. Some people said, oh, those guys, this guy has steroids on him. People think, the regular guy think that the guy who uses the steroids for the day of the fight. It is not, man. It's the training camp that kills those guys. And so those guys cheat on the training camp so they can be healthy to recover in the next day. Because the training camp is hell. Training camp is hell. And some guys cannot follow the mindset for the training camp. Because I'm telling you this, the last 2 weeks of training, it's something that you have to combine the mind and the spirit and the whole understanding. You have to make people understand that you're dieting, you're really on the diet, you're losing weight, cutting weight, dehydrating many times, and you still have to train. And you're not going to do well, man. It is not when you combine all this. And that's the time when you have more mental pressure because it's getting close to the fight. You want to be in the best shape. After training camp, also, you start getting hurt. If you train hard, you're going to get injuries. That's no way that you don't. The majority of guys fight with injuries. So you are on a diet. You are getting close to the fight. You are injured. And you have this training camp that you still have to do it. Then many times that you're tapping to other people. You're getting beat up. You're not in the regular. You just started training camp differently, and also very very common is the fighter when they are not having any fight schedule. They're completely different ones than when they're at training camp or in the end of the training camp. All mental, not just all mental, physical, spiritual, whatever it is that you have there. But last 2 weeks is pretty important because you got to pick them up from the floor. But with Rodrigo, that doesn't work that way. Minotauro thinks differently, acts differently. When he gets to the fight, he rises above everybody else. Of course, if he doesn't train, he's going to show up on his physical. Of course, if he doesn't learn, he's going to show up in his technical. But in the mindset, this guy it's just crazy. It's above anything else. Not a guy with the different reasons. What is a specimen, physically, is Ricardo Arona. Arona was a physical specimen. It's a genetic like no one else, and really good mindset. It was a true warrior spirit. And there's guys that are very talented, but don't train as much as he did. So he rise above. He is a genetic freak with training and with dedication. That's rise above. Another guy who really impressed me by the genetics, and I can say that genetically this guy, it was above everybody else, is Yoel Romero. Yoel Romero is a freak of a nature, man. I never saw nobody so fast, so strong. They're so made flexible. He got so many physical qualities. It's just impressive. I think Yoel, the only thing of Yoel gets into the way of him being a champion is age. I really think it's age. Because he doesn't do a training like anybody else because he's afraid to get hurt. Because in his age, he doesn't recover as the same. So Yoel doesn't spar like everybody else, like 2 days a week sparring. He put a lot of effort on conditioning because in the conditioning, he doesn't get hurt as the same if he really actually go for fighting with a lot of guys. So he concentrates more on the conditioning part than in actually the pressure, the sparring part. The sparring hurts, man. You know that, Vlad. The sparring hurts a lot. And a lot of people get injured. And he being a guy with 40-something years old into this game, competing for belts, it's the kind of guy that he can't afford getting hurt and getting a surgery, again. So he trains, he does things differently. But he's a freak of nature. Freak of a nature, man. It's just incredible to see it, We have a lot of other guys so talented that I was able to train to. Another very good mindset is Robbie Lawler. Robbie Lawler is a cold killer. One of those guys there. He feels like he's got some Russian blood. No smile, no thanks, no fear, no demonstrations of anything. You know, he is impressive too. You know, he's doing mentally. He's very strong mentally, very very strong mentally. You know, there's other guys too. Tyrone Woodley. Tyrone is an amazing genetic human specimen too. You know, very talented and trains hard. The only thing about Tyrone is that sometimes he's not there 100%. He has a heart of a fighter that sometimes things distract him from the fight. If you got a problem somewhere, he's concentrating on some of the things, and it doesn't get the best out of him. Because if he got the best of the day, it's proved that he's a world champion. You know, but there has to be that moment that he got so laser focused on a fight, and the fight being the most important thing. He will ever be, a champion always. Yeah, just some of the names there for that.
Now it's even harder question. You were coach at, I don't know how much, but very many fights. Can you pinpoint to the fights that were psychologically the hardest ones for you as a coach?
Yes, there's two very emotional fights for me, and I've been in many fights, in many championship fights, and have seen a lot of guys get belts. But there's two very emotional for me. One is when Murilo Bustamante got the World Championship UFC belt. And that was very, Murilo, we grew up together. And I lived with him. Murilo was my roommate for quite a while. Besides that, we're since the teenager years, we grew up together up to him. So at that time, to see him doing everything and living the struggles on a daily basis, because this is one of my best friends still. He winning the world championships, he winning the UFC belt. It was a realization from all of us that grew up together. We saw ourselves in him, and that was really emotional for me. I really felt. I tell them that this is something that really it touched my heart. It's one of my best friends, but I saw the struggle. I saw everybody has a story on this thing here, but always, there is a struggle from there. And I saw him being a champion and defending his belt. I saw him rising above everybody else from hard work. Because like this, we're saying, Vlad, it's not everybody who has the same genetic freaks, genetics than everybody. Some of the guys there are just simply different. Yoel is a different human being. Arona is a different, Tyrone Woodley is a different human being. Murilo is a hard worker guy who rose above really working hard as he could. So, yeah, was very special. Another one was seeing Mike Brown winning the title of WEC, because also I have this really good connection with Mike, and I helped him I helped him for him to be there. I was there with him with heart and soul, and it was very special. It was really, really special in all cases. And I mentioned that there are so many other ones, but those two here goes to my mind. I remember, and I'm not a big crier, but I remember when Murilo won, in the backstage I was crying, happy and emotion for this guy, and Mike Brown too. It was very emotional for me to see those guys win.
How do you know what to say to your fighter between the rounds? I mean, it's very, very hard to recover the fighter between the rounds. Maybe he's emotionally rocked, maybe he's psychologically battered, and maybe he's physically battered. So, how do you determine what should you do between the rounds?
Yeah, first of all, you gotta bring him down to an effect. For you to put any kind of knowledge in his head, give it any kind of technical or mental advice on it, you got to make sure that he's back looking at you, because it's something really important, because some guys are really, they're gasping for air, they're thinking about the fight, and you just got to bring them down. Hey, man, pay attention here, breathe, calm down. Now, listen to me. This is what's happening right now. For many times, the most important thing is you have to be transparent. You cannot say, "Oh, you're winning." If you're really not winning, you cannot tell him that he's winning. That's really cost the whole entire fight. You cannot make a mistake of that. A mistake like this, I mean, if you just telling the guy, "Hey, keep doing what you're doing because you're winning," in your mind, you're screwing the whole fight. You gotta tell him, "Man, listen, we lost this round. There's 2 more to come. We gotta do something about this. Maybe you gotta cover the distance, taking angles, change the levels, take him down, or keep the striking, move more, advance more." There's all the technical aspect that you have to know it. But very important is for you. You have to know your guy. You have to know him more. There was no pretend. If this guy is afraid, if the guy has any anxiety, you have to know. You gotta see in his face, and you gotta communicate with this guy without words. It has to be something. "Hey, man, do this for me because you're gonna get a better chance. Hey, man, wake up. Hey, man, calm down." All those little things are important. So you have to get those guys, not just in training camp. You have to get those guys knowing, trusting you, knowing who you are, and you have the best interest on them, so they can open up to you. So that's always important.
What happens if the guy is a poker face? For example, I had an interview with BKFC fighter Travis the Animal Thompson, and he mentioned that his coaches are sometimes having this problem because he is an amazing poker face. When he fought Dutton again, you couldn't see that he is, fatigued and so on because he's all the time like this. But he was saying, "Oh man, I was so damn tired, but I'm a good poker face." How do you resolve that problem?
There's no resolving of that problem. You have to have a good reading, but don't fall for that. Like people are pretending to be hurt so you can get closer distance so they can knock you out. You have to have this ability to read people. You have also to hold your instincts. You hold a little bit of your anxiety because you can fall into a trap. It can go 2 ways. Oh, you can be respecting the guys because you don't think that he is hurt or he's tired. Everybody's tired there, man. Everybody when gets there is not even tired. Everybody there has a degree of emotions flowing that some of the guys can administrate this pretty well. Some other guys that just really get depleted by the adrenaline. And I'm telling you this. In training, you have to mimic a lot of situations. You have to mimic pressure. You have to mimic being tired, and you still have to put the poker face and put yourself out there. You have to mimic the crowd around. You have to have people looking at you, because you got to understand this. Vlad, people are not afraid to get hurt when they go for fighting. You get hurt more in training than in fighting. That's a true statement. People don't understand. The big injuries, for the most part, happens in injury. For the most part. If you take the percentage, 100%. Because you train more. You do more sparring. But being afraid of being embarrassing in front of other people, in front of the crowd, do something to be humiliated, that's what really scares anyone and everyone. That's the reality of things. If you are afraid to get hurt, you never sign up for this or you never train. But when you go there, you're afraid to be embarrassing in front of the crowd, or to let people down, or in front of the mirror. Because you have to deal with that guy in front of the mirror more than anything else. Sometimes you think something about yourself and you lost a fight. I'm a champion, I'm a champion, I'm a champion. And you make the statement in your mind and nobody can beat you, and you lose. And suddenly you're doubting yourself. How to deal with this is very important. You have to learn how to deal with this and give yourself a break. without losing faith in yourself and without really actually breaking confidence. And that's a real psychological exercise. You've got to be able to understand that anyone can lose, but you don't want it to lose, and you're going to make anything else, disappear. But if you lose it, you want it to be able to come back again and rebuild yourself and understand that you can be a champion despite all this. And that's the key, that you take it for life. If you learn how to deal with these emotions, you learn how to be successful in anything in your life, man. Because you're not afraid to lose anymore. That's very important. And this statement can be applied for your life on anything, on everything, from relationships to business or anything else. It's something that you learn it. And it's possible to absorb too. It is a big possibility that you can learn this, right? You can learn to didactics, So, yeah, that's basically what it is.
Yeah. What are the greatest challenges of working with visually impaired people?
It has to, the ways that you teach the visually impaired has to be different, Vlad, because you don't count with the senses, right? You don't count with the vision. So if you want them, you have to be very specific. If you want them, you gotta use your left hand, get the grip. You gotta get a good description of movement. One thing you can never say that just do this. You can't do. You just can say just do this. So put your left leg forward, your right leg back. Your left hand goes inside. Let's say you're rolling forward. Put your chin in your chest. You're going to roll over your left shoulder. You're going to use your right foot to push you, project yourself forward. You know what I'm saying? You're giving a really good breakdown of description. You have to describe, and also many times you have to touch them. You got to touch them or ask them to touch you. Ask somebody to touch your arm while you're doing the movement. So you put the hand on the person, you do the movement so they can get it. You close their hands and making the fist and make them feel that you have the closed fist. There's a couple tricks on this, and be patient. Be patient of understanding. Understand that there's a different way to learn, but also very important. Do never doubt that they can do it. If you doubt that they can do it, they will teach you a lesson that I hope people understand. Don't doubt the visually impaired cannot do it. The visually impaired are extremely, all visually impaired are warriors, man. And they want to prove everybody wrong in terms of their independency. They want to be independent. They want to be, they want to be capable to do basically anything that we're doing. It's really, really amazing how you see people, like so many people there I saw it, and how much jiu-jitsu came actually to help. Jiu-jitsu is custom made for this, blood, for visually impaired, because other martial arts and other combat sports, you still have to touch them and you put them in a position, and from there you go. Jiu-jitsu is on the ground. It's really rarely when you go so further away from jiu-jitsu, and it's just simply custom made for visually impaired, and it's something that community of visually impaired needed, because a lot of visually impaired don't have many physical activities. A lot of visually impaired also have different. It's following up with other differences on how you say it. The vision is not the same for everyone. Sometimes you think about vision impaired or blind, and you think about 100% out of vision, and it's not the way it works. You can be visually impaired, that you never drive a car, but you see it way more than other people, and there's differences on degrees of the vision. Helps, or sometimes not even helps. I have a kid. And that's a beautiful story. His name is George Stern. So George Stern, he got out of the high school, and there is one big problem, right? Look, if you're a kid and growing up in an educational system with the visually impaired, after high school, you have to be able to go to university, but not everybody has money for the university, if it makes sense. For you to go to a good university here, you have to have money. It's really about money. And a lot of those kids, they stay in the house after high school, where they're waking up early in the morning and getting dressed and get ready and go to the bus or get some sort of transportation, pick them up at the house to drop them off in a school. Now, after high school, the guys are stuck in a house doing nothing, which is another statistics that people don't know. 75% of visually impaired in the United States don't have a job. Look at this. 75% of visually impaired, and I don't know around the world, but 75% don't have a job. And it's just a matter of staying in the house. So when do we have this connection with a visually impairment agency called the Lighthouse, which is the agency that concentrate all the visually impaired kids and adults in that region? They started sending all the kids to us. So we do martial arts summer camps. And that's when I met George. And I give him scholarships. If you wanted to come over, we're going to send you a transportation, which is a van in your house, and to pick you up, and you spend a day with us training. This has changed the life of at least 6 kids, Vlad. So we did this, and we did this training over there. The kids, instead of being in the house the whole entire day, they started being at the gym the whole entire day. So I have some of these visually impaired kids. They're doing 4 classes a day. That changed completely their lives. They come from no physical activities to completely transforming, and those guys are hanging out in the school the whole day. And they suddenly are experts. So I got this kid. This kid was winning. He actually won the state championship in Florida, beating 6 sighted guys. So he beat everybody. And he was visually impaired. The only thing we do is putting them together, and he goes from there and he goes pull guard or whatever it is. This kid it changed his life completely. Well, completely, because he gave him an outlet of a social interaction that he didn't have it before. But people don't see this much, but that's the beautiful part of martial arts and jiu-jitsu. It gives an opportunity to socialize and be part of something special that's not everybody talk about it, you know? And yeah, I'm very proud to be part of this. I have a very dear connection with the visually impaired because of my daughter's visually impaired, and we always connected with the community of visually impaired. Now I live in Orlando, Florida, and I work for the university, and I do work with the Lighthouse. We still have a couple things that we do, especially with the veterans. The last time I did a seminar for the veterans in the United States with 9 veterans that lost their sight on the war came over to train with us, and they were from all over the United States, but they had so much fun. It was so good to see, how much they can do it with that, and there's very many different degrees of acceptance from visual impairment too, because some guys were born visually impaired, some guys lost very young, some guys lost, an older age, and that's some just lost it, and you're adapting to this new life, and it's hard. Of course it's hard, absolutely hard. But once you're a part of a community, and the community give you support, that's the most important thing in life, I believe, So we're still working on that.
Awesome. Is there anything else you would like to add to this interview? Maybe something we didn't mention?
No, but the only thing that I want is when this whole craziness of coronavirus, is stopped. I want to go visit you guys there. I've never been there, so I have to go visit you guys. And I heard this is a beautiful country, and I hope you guys take me for a seminar there one day. Okay?
It is amazing country. You will like it for sure.
I had no doubt, lad.
Yeah.
Okay?
Thank you so much for this. I will upload it on Monday as we have travel restrictions, just like all the states. Over the weekends it's a police hour, so I can only travel on Monday. Haven't seen my parents for a while, so now I'm at them.
Vlad, man, be safe, be healthy for you and everybody there, okay?
No problem.
God bless you guys there.
No problem. Have a great day, Ricardo.
Ciao. Ciao.